Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Blue Collar Talks. I'm here again with Mr. Mark Ivy, and my name is Luis Remartini, and we are gonna be talking about some crazy stories that we have been facing on the field. How are you doing today, Mark?
Doing all right. Busy day.
Busy
Busy
day.
week. The
Yeah.
weather's been nuts. So
Oh,
tis the rainy season.
a lot of rain. What do you have for us today?
I'd like to go over the fact that a lot of times homeowners see an opportunity to trim their budget by hiring non-licensed contractors, and they don't realize the mistake they're making in doing that.
Big mistake.
You're saving money, but there's a reason for that, and you're assuming a lot of liability by doing that as well, a lot of risk. Um, I know you've got some information on
What happened when you
what.
do that?
Yeah. What are the repercussions for something like that?
Yes. So we definitely want to talk about hiring unlicensed contractor because it's a problem, or it could be a problem, not only for the homeowner but also for the contractor. So if a homeowner knowingly hires an unlicensed contractor, they could actually face fines by the state, right? So they could be facing fines up to $10,000 if they are knowingly hiring an unlicensed contractor. But I think the biggest risk for those contractors that are knowingly, getting into a contract without a license is that that license is not forcible. So it's not real. If you sign a contract as the contractor without a license, that is not enforceable. Meaning that if a homeowner or a customer decide not to pay you, nobody's gonna look at that contract because it's pretty much not a valid contract. All right. So you want to be sure there's some trades where you don't need a license, right? So be sure that either you're working on a trade where you don't require a license, or be sure that you have your own license number or whoever you're working for or working with. But again, don't sign a contract without a license because you could be losing money. And people would take advantage of that,
Of course.
you know?
Yeah. One way to know is if you need a permit for the job that you need to have done. So if a contractor's telling you to pull a homeowner's permit, usually that means they're not licensed.
They
to do it
cannot pull the
themselves.
permit
Right.
themselves. Well, there's times, and we were talking about this, right? About people trying to save money, which we understand, right? But you got to be careful with, because if you got three quotes, one of those is 2,000, and the other two are higher than 5 or 6,000. You know, there's something that it ain't right. You know what I'm saying?
Too
So
good to be true.
it is too good to be true.
Yeah.
So what normally happens is that these people will try to go with the cheaper one. Again, not judging. We're just trying to inform you, and they will give $1,000 deposit. Guess what? It's been 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks. Contractor haven't come back to get anything done.
Right.
So that's when they start calling other people like, "Hey, you do some this for me?" And they start getting into trouble. So, be reasonable.
Yeah. Well, I went to check one just yesterday, and the lady, everything was formed up, graded out, ready for concrete, but there was still some prep work that needed to be done, some dowels in the existing concrete, and some compaction work that needed to be done that she asked them to do, and they refused to do it, and they walked off. Now, the mistake she made was paying the total price up front
Oh my
for
god.
these guys. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they walked away with the money, and uh, she's left in the hole with
Yeah.
with a bunch of dirt in the front yard. Yeah. It's a tough one to swallow.
We laugh, but it's sad.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah, that's painful. Yeah, I can imagine. So,
as a homeowner, you
yeah.
never do that. You never pay the whole amount up front. We know that. We understand that. We do ask for a deposit, but we ain't never gonna ask for the whole amount to be paid up front because that's not the way it works.
I've had customers tell us they appreciate how we kind of structure our payments,
Yeah.
and that we kind of try to work with a draw system so that you're paying as you see the work being completed, which is typical between contractors. So we've kind of translated that over to the customers as well, so that they can see the progress as they're paying. So by the time the work is done, payments have been completed. but they're not paying everything up front, and they can see the progress.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Well, related to that, and it is another mistake that people, go into that, and I think that it is hiring people that is not local, or hiring contractors that are not local on your area, and we have seen that before, where people is hiring contractors from Melbourne. Here we are, located on Port St. Lucie, Florida, but somehow homeowners are still trying to hire a contractor that is coming from 80 miles away, when you have probably 10 good people on your area that could do the work. So again, guess what happens? These people, they ain't coming back. So they may show up, they do part of the work, they get some money, then they're gone. And we have seen a lot of stories where these homeowners are already facing, like, suing those contractors, haunting them, trying to find them somewhere, trying to get some of their money back, when they were trying to save. They are actually spending more money because they already gave a deposit or partial payment, and they ended up having to contract somebody else to complete the work. So, we are definitely up to support the local businesses. But again, as a homeowner, don't look for somebody that live hour and a half away from you.
Have you guys ever had like a homeowner in a job site that was like on you the whole time? That's just like making sure you're doing every single little thing right?
Oh yeah.
Many.
Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah. Well, and this kind of relates to the importance of contracts and making sure you've got everything in there. When we sometimes we'll have a customer that you know assumes things are in scope of work, but they're not in the contract and they weren't discussed prior to. And we'll get there and we'll be doing the preparation, and they'll say, "Oh well, I want this here and this here," and it's like that wasn't discussed. It's not, it hasn't been budgeted for or accounted for in the budget. And, we can make those adjustments, but we're going to need to adjust the price, and we need to, have this documented as well. And that way, you know, both sides are happy in the end. Um, but, uh, you know, usually those work out okay. Sometimes there's a little bit of conflict, but
Yeah. And we're kind of playing a bit of the devil right here, because we want to give tips to the homeowners, but also for those contractors, right?
right, yeah,
Because there's people that will try to get advantage of you and try to get more for free or more for the same price, or just, like, oh, I thought you were including this, then I'm not going to hire you, when they know it wasn't included, right? So we have been on the situation where we have a great customer,
yeah,
and maybe they were on the understanding that something was going to happen. And if it's something small, we are willing to do it. Sometimes we do it without even charging money.
yeah,
But there's times where you realize when somebody's trying to take advantage of you and trying
right,
to get more and more and more and more. So that's when you got to say, okay, yeah, we could do it, but there's going to be a charge for that, because we ain't on the business to lose money.
yeah. We
We
don't
are
work
on the
for
business
free,
to make money.
right?
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So, whenever it's something small, maybe there was a miscommunication, misunderstanding, we could be nice enough to
right.
include it. But you got to know the difference in between that and somebody trying to take advantage of you.
What's one of the like crazy homeowner stories you guys have like dealing with homeowners?
We were just talking about this time, right? When we did this job, it was a concrete job. It was a big job. It was like a $90,000 job, right? So we did driveway and two slabs, one 40 by 60 and a 20 by 20. So it came to happen that the 20 by 20, we used one of those trucks. It had big footings and stuff like that. So pretty much the whole truck was dumped into that slab, right? So next day we came to cut the control joints, remove the forms, this and that. It happened to be the customer's birthday. So, he was taking a few beers, just having a nice
Yeah.
time. Very nice guy.
Super relaxed guy, super cool.
Very
Yeah,
nice guy the
yeah.
whole time. I happened to be out of town.
Uh-huh.
That was a Saturday.
I was there. I took a
Mark
brunt
was
of
there.
this one.
I was having lunch with the family.
Yeah.
And then I talking to Mark saying, hey, how's everything going? Then I hear Mark saying, wait a minute, there's a crack on this lap.
Uh-huh.
And then on the same call, I hear the
To be
customer right
fair,
behind.
let's explain the crack real quick, all right? So I don't want anybody freaking out. All right. It wasn't the work that was done. It didn't mix in the concrete
Yeah,
truck.
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
in the drum,
It was
it
something on the concrete.
mixes, different chemicals, and there's so many different components to that mixture of cement.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't mix in the drum, which it didn't, when they pour it out, okay, all of those different components are in layers and in pieces and spread around instead of mixed together properly. So this is what happened, and it didn't mix. And so when it set overnight, and we came back the next day, as it's curing, it just started cracking like
Oh, Lord.
shattered glass and this
Yes.
one spot where this one truck had
Yes.
poured out. So
Yeah. It wasn't only a crack. It was like
it was
spider cracks
it was
all around this
it was
area in particular.
horrible. It was horrible.
So what it was probably about 60 yards or so. It was a big job. It was
The total
it was
job.
more than that.
The
Yeah.
total job was about
But there
600 feet,
was
something like that.
this particular area where this happened.
And there's about
Anything
10
else,
yards in the
everything
truck.
else was beautiful.
Yeah.
So I'm talking with Mark. He's saying, "Oh, everything is good." When he starts seeing this, he's like, "Oh my god, something's happening here."
Yeah.
Next thing, I hearing the homeowner screaming all the way and kicking everybody out of the property.
Yeah.
You get out of my property
Yeah.
right now. I
You
don't want to
guys
see you here.
Screwed me. Yeah. You did it on purpose. And
Oh,
all this
yeah.
other stuff. It was a nightmare. Yeah.
You were
But,
there.
oh, it
Luckily,
was-
we were done with the contra joints, so
Yeah.
that was good.
we
So
cut
we were
those.
able to take
Oh,
out.
man. But in the end, everybody got along great. You know, we made it right. We came out, we cut out the bad concrete, we poured it, we
Yes.
fixed it. Everybody was happy. But I mean, it was a big
Yeah.
it was a big scene. It was
It's funny because I was out of town, right?
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
having lunch with my family at that right
Yeah.
exact moment.
Yeah.
So of course, right away I go ahead and I text the customer and I said it was a Saturday. So I
Yeah.
said, "Hey, listen, don't worry about it. Let's meet Monday morning.
Yeah.
We will take care of it.
Yeah.
It's gonna be fine." So right away he started texting me back. "Oh, you don't know who you're messing with. You did this on purpose. You're trying to rob out of me. Blah blah blah. I'm gonna sue you. I'm gonna own your company." I'm like, wait a minute. No, we will be there on Monday. Don't worry. We will set it up.
It was late
Oh
Friday,
my
and
God.
he is a case deep.
Yeah.
So you have to take everything he says with a grain of salt. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I mean,
At the end of the day, he ended up apologizing for that.
yeah.
And we make it right for
Yes,
him
yeah.
because we talked to the concrete company and there was an issue with that one truck. Out of 10 trucks or 9 trucks, there was only one truck that got a problem.
Yeah.
They ended up paying for that, the concrete company.
Good.
We pay for the labor.
Right.
We shouldn't have, but we did.
But we did.
Just because, we were trying to solve that real.
Of course, yeah.
And that's what it was.
Yeah. And to argue his side, when you're doing a project of that side and you're spending that kind of money,
Of course.
it's a big investment.
It is.
So it was a big investment for him to do this project. And he'd spent a good price on this to get it done right. So when you see something like that, I
It
can
is
understand the feelings, so
I remember this other time
Mhm.
we were digging a driveway on Hop Sound
Mhm.
and we hit the main water line for the whole neighborhood.
yeah.
So we left the neighborhood without water for probably about 4 or 5 hours.
Yeah.
Plus, it was, getting floated on the work side. That was terrible.
Yeah.
That's something
And it's
important.
two different things if you break the water line, on the street side
Right.
of the valve from, because if you catch a water main from the between the valve, the shutoff valve in the house, you could shut it off.
Yes.
Right. You have access to that. You can shut it off. You can fix the water line, and turn it back on. But when it's street side, that's the city. The city's got to come out and fix that, and that takes a little while. So the water's just pumping and pumping and pumping. It makes a mess. So.
And that's something that happens a lot because, we normally call for the utilities
We're not
markup.
breaking a lot of water mains.
Yeah, no, we
but,
ain't. But that would be nice, and you have a lot of experience with this because you have seen not only water lines but Comcast, electrical, FPL, different stuff. So you could tell about this and
FPL,
how you have solved that.
Mhm.
Who would you call?
Yeah, well, I mean, just to kind of spell out, when you have an older property and you have a lot of old trees and stuff like that,
That's what happened there. You came with a
so it was one example was a massive oak tree right next to this house, and we're ripping out this driveway, and you have to eliminate the roots that are underneath the concrete that are growing and growing and lifting the concrete. So we're pulling roots and pulling roots and pulling roots, these big roots that are underneath this concrete that has already been removed. And he pulls on a root that just won't give. And finally it goes, and power pops on the house, but not just this house. It shut off the breaker down at the street and shut off the power for like 4 or 5 houses down the street. So of course we had to call FBL.
That
And
that
they
was
got,
a high end community.
yeah, it was
People
very,
wasn't
yeah.
happy about it.
Oh yeah, they were not happy. So, but what happens is you've got that power line underground, buried underground, and it's running right through this root system over the years and years and years. This tree's been growing. The roots are just constantly wrapping around this thing and lifting it, and it's not 3 feet deep where it's supposed to be anymore. Now it's 1.5 feet, 18 inches, and as you're pulling roots, it's pulling that.
That's the same that happened with the water line. We were removing roots, but the roots were hogging the pipe.
Yeah.
So when we took out those roots, it just came with it.
Yeah. Tree roots can be a nightmare to deal with because stuff's there. You get stuff marked out. It's there, but you also expect it to be at the depth it's supposed to be.
Exactly.
But it's not always there because those roots, man, they'll lift it, they'll push it, everything settles and sinks, and everything floats. That's in the ground tends to, well, I call it floating, but as the ground settles, that stuff stays kind of stagnant. So it's almost as if it's lifted. Yeah. It's not really lifted per se, unless it's the roots that are pushing it up anyway.
How important is the recovery when you make a mistake like that? Like, how do you recover like that?
Time is critical. So you got to call the city for the water immediately. You got to get somebody out there to shut off that water, get it fixed. God forbid somebody's in a shower, lathered up, whenever something like that happens, and now there's no water to rinse off or something like that. Or, the power, obviously, you got 4 houses down the street. Nobody's got power and their AC is not working. It's in the middle of summertime. So you got to get somebody out there right away. And so we called FBL for that one. They came out, they ran a temporary line until they could run a new one underground. But they came out same day.
Yeah.
Got it all, patched up. And
well, you gotta face it up. That's the only thing you can do because it's the price of business.
You
it's
immediately go to the customer and communicate what happened. Yeah. Because it's the issue's there. It's right in front of you. You can't hide it. There's no disguising it. You know what I mean? It's not like
there's no way around that.
Sweep it under the rug. It doesn't happen like that. And even if it's a minor thing, you need to own it, fix it, and move on.
That job in particular, it was a small job. It was probably like a $5,400 job. We ended up paying like $1,800 to FPL. That's what they charge. Yeah. And then we had to pay about $800 to an electrician because he needed to do the new connection to the panel. Yeah. So you could imagine we pretty much lost money on that project. Oh, yeah. But again, from probably 1,000 plus, maybe 1,500 jobs we have done, within the last few years, we may be talking of the last 10 years or so. Mm-hmm. We could talk about maybe 20 or 30, of these kind of situations. So it's definitely a very, very minimum percentage. But when it happens, you just got to face it up. There's no way around it. Like Mark was saying, face up, talk to the owner, communicate it, because you can't hide it. And if you try to hide it and keep going with the work, it's going to get worse. Yeah. It ain't going to get, it ain't going away. Yeah. So you got to be sure that you address it at the right time.
Another one that we faced that I've thought of was there's no way to guarantee the final color of the concrete. When it cures, there's so many factors involved in the final color whenever it cures. It could be the moisture in the ground. It could be the shade from the house, from a tree. It could be the temperature, and different places in the ground. There's so many different things. So, if we're doing a driveway and the color does not come out the way the homeowner expects, like a perfectly pure white driveway, we did that one that had the bricks. Yeah. A nice, it's a beautiful driveway. Had the brick patterns, on the borders and then running through it and everything like that. But the concrete did not want to cure clean like he had wanted. And there were so many different things involved. And he even admitted in the end, if I remember correctly, that there was the landscapers for the community were coming out and they had just fertilized like that same week that we poured that concrete.
Yeah.
And all of those chemicals in the fertilizer, along with the moisture in the grounds, affects that chemical curation that's happening in the concrete.
Yeah, and that's a good tip because, yeah, we can't control the final color of the concrete, right? And we actually have that on our contract because we learned it the hard way, and now we take care of that. You know, we gotta cover our back. There's just no way to guarantee it. Not even the concrete company will guarantee that. They have so many different aggregates within the mix. In particular, the slag. When they use the slag, that tends to happen when you get like a darker spot.
What is the slag?
Not 100% sure.
Okay, yeah.
But it's just
Yeah.
an aggregate that
Yeah,
they put
it's
into it.
one of the pieces.
Yes,
Like I had mentioned earlier, there's so many different layers to
That's
that
correct.
mixture.
it gets into the
that had to get
chemical
mixed.
mix of,
Yeah,
of the
yeah,
concrete,
exactly.
you know,
Yeah,
which we don't,
Even the amount of water that's added to the mixture
of course,
in the
you gotta
barrel
watch
can
out.
affect that final color. Yeah, there's so many different things. So
But that driveway, it was like 120 yards or so. So it wasn't 100+ yards. Very long, very large driveway. It was terrible. Brown and dark spots all around. So when this happened to you, vinegar. It's hard to believe, but vinegar is what you use. So you wash it with vinegar, you hit it with a hard brush, you let it dry, and then you rinse it off. You could do it twice. Then you gotta let it dry for at least 24 hours. I guarantee. Next day, it will be
it's a
much
big
better.
difference.
Yeah.
Big difference. Yeah,
On
not
that
perfect, but a much better product. Yeah.
We probably got it into a 90%.
Yeah.
But it looks way better from what it looked before. We
Yeah.
we were doing that today on another driveway
Okay.
because it was undercover. So this
Yeah.
tend to happen on those areas where you have a lot of trees, a lot of shade. But believe it or not, vinegar will do it. That's a good tip for
Yeah.
people who doesn't know because we didn't know at the beginning and we learned it.
Yeah.
So that's good to
It
know.
was a little Google tip that we picked up. Yeah.
Yeah.
So-
And from the concrete company,
Oh, okay.
they recommend it.
Oh, okay. There you go. Yeah.
That's
Even
correct.
better.
Man, I gotta say, like one of your biggest expenses if you want to grow is gonna be marketing.
Mhm.
You know, advertisement.
Mhm.
We spend a lot of money on advertisement. It's probably one of our biggest fixed expenses.
Mhm.
That is on operative cost. You know, because it's not a direct cost for any job. It's not concrete. It's not a material. It's not something that we use, right? But because of marketing and advertisement, is that we get as many jobs as we have. So marketing, you gotta watch for that. You gotta be sure that whatever you're doing and whatever you're spending is really paying off. You know, but marketing is gonna be one of those big expenses that you gotta go through so that you could actually grow your business. Because other than that, you know, if you try to go by referrals it's just going to be much lower. So
It's a
you
different
need to be
market.
there.
It's a different market than say car sales. You
Of
know,
course,
because the demand is out there for the work,
it is.
and there's other companies that are doing the same thing.
Yeah.
So it's just a matter of getting in front of those customers.
Yeah.
And it's just a matter of putting your face, putting your brand, putting your name in their peripheral so that they can know you exist.
And we were talking about that, right? And this is even part of that homeowner research. Because when you're hiring somebody, at least Google them.
Yeah.
Everything is on
Yeah.
Google these days.
Yeah.
If you are Googling somebody, if you're hiring somebody, they're not on Google, you don't see a picture, you don't see a review,
Mhm.
you better look other way.
Well, and there's a tip for contractors too. It's one thing we do when we send out our quote for the work to be done. We add that link, and I really like that we do that.
Yeah.
That wasn't my decision. I think that was you.
Oh,
right?
somebody
Yeah.
told you that?
Yeah, we said, oh, I see it in there now.
Oh.
It's we add that link to our Google, so that people can
Your
find
Google
our
business
reviews.
profile.
Yeah.
That's correct.
Yeah.
And that's what it is. You know, it's funny because we have been on the situation where because every time we go, we check a job and then we say, hey, we will send you the quote, we will send you a link to our Google profile. You can check pictures and reviews of our work. There have been people that have been saying like, oh no, I don't believe on that. Don't send that to me. That's your cousin and your neighbors doing that. I'm gonna tell you right now.
Yeah.
We don't have that many friends. We have 196 5 stars reviews on our Google profile and 114 5 stars reviews that we had on Home Advisor, Angie Leads, where we initially started working. We're not working with that anymore. But if you add those two, we have more than 300 5 stars reviews online. So that's something to look for.
Okay.
we were also wanted to discuss about how you could be losing money on jobs, right? Like whenever you bid on a job, you got sure that you added your concrete, you have some money for overhead, you have the right amount of labor, and you have you overall have a nice profit coming through it,
Mhm.
right? What could make you lose money?
Things that'll make you lose money
Yeah,
is well, situations that you don't plan for, like hitting a water main, or power line, right?
yeah,
But those are, they don't happen often, so you roll with that punch and you kind of swallow that pill. But um, you've got to factor in needing fill,
yeah.
right? And if you if you see some's retaining a lot of water, expect it to be a little muddy, which means we need to bring in rock, we need to bring in a road base, we need to bring in a clean fill that's something that's compactable because you're not running a compactor through mud.
Right.
You know, little things like that, and um,
So what we were doing some research. I mean, we know this because we have lived that,
yeah,
right? But even doing research, it seems to be a standard. So the biggest reason why people lose money on jobs is because of delays. So it's pretty much timing. When
time,
you bid on a job that is supposed to take 5 days
yeah,
and it ended up taking 7 or 8, then that's when you're losing money. So more than price increase on materials, or something that you didn't account for, maybe a couple extra yards of fuel, this and that, is because of timing.
yeah,
So you gotta watch for that because there's times where there's stuff you can't control,
mm-hmm.
such as weather,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Right,
Lately, it's been raining so long, so our jobs are taking longer to
yeah,
get completed.
yeah,
What can we do? You can't blame on anybody on that.
mm-hmm.
But there's times where the job is not getting done on the right timing and at the time it should be getting done. So you got to look on why that's happening, right? It could be that you don't have the knowledge people on the job site. Maybe you don't have clear instructions. Maybe they don't have the skills, or maybe they're just taking it too easy. So that's when you got to jump it and tie those screws in.
Yeah. Now factoring in time, if you're you're paying your guys or for the 8 hours of work or 9 hours, however you got to calculate it. If they're on a job site, maybe you've calculated that job site for 6 hours, but you have to price in the 2 hours of drive time. If it's an hour there and an hour back, you got to charge for that too because you're still paying your guys for 8 hours. You need to charge for those 8 hours
Of
because
course.
they're not just driving to drive, they're driving to that job site. So that drive time is for that job. So that labor cost needs to be accounted for as well.
Yeah, yeah. And that's something we were talking about is about the overhead expenses,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Such as rent, office, cell phones, maintenance, accountability, on and on and on, insurances, general liabilities, workers' comp, on and on and on and on.
mm-hmm.
So you need to be sure that you cover your back and either you add a percentage for this on every single job or you try to go higher on your profit. It does exist something that is pretty much died of success, which is pretty much when a company can't keep up with the growing that is required by the demand of the business, right? So there's times where businesses get many 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 customers and they can't face it and they ended up closing or dying or going to bankrupt or whatever it is, right? So yeah, you gotta be careful, not try to take more than what you can handle, or whenever you get that, do what you need to do to face it up,
Yeah,
such as
yeah.
new equipment, more people on your job site.
There's going to be a balance because if you start turning down work, um, a lot of your jobs are going to come from referrals.
Right.
But if you're not getting referrals because you didn't do the job for the person, so they can't refer you to somebody, they don't know how your work is. So you gotta be careful not to start turning down too much work. So
Yeah.
you're gonna have to find that balance between growth and only taking in what you can handle.
Yeah. In our case, I don't think we have been on that situation.
No,
Like we haven't really refused any job unless it is something that we can handle because
right,
we know it goes beyond our skills or something like that, right? Or whenever we know that it may be a problematic homeowner or it's really not worth it because we have so many fixed expenses that when somebody's trying to hire us for a small job, it's always gonna ended up being a high price per square feet because it costs a lot of money to move a trailer with a machine and 3 or 4 guys to a job site. That itself is already costing probably about $1,000. That's without accounting any materials and whatever we're gonna be using to get the job done. So those are the cases. But other than that, we always try to do as much as we can. But that happened to us back on about 2020. We pretty much doubled our production on 1 year, and it was because we started doing a lot of, spending a lot of money on marketing and advertisement. So we started getting much more many leads.
Yeah, a lot more leads.
More leads.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
of course,
correct.
Yeah.
But we did what we had to.
Uh-huh.
We got a second crew, we got a second truck, we got a second trailer, we got a second machine, and that's how we face it. So that's what it is. If you want more work, you gotta be ready to face it, and you gotta be able to handle the stress because there's a lot of stress that comes with it.
I have a stat here that says 80% of concrete failures come from poor prep. What do you guys say about that?
80%. That's a high number. That's
concrete failures come from a poor prepping before you pour the concrete.
So 80% of concrete failures coming from poor prep is a blight, a stain on the industry. That's sad. That's a painful thing to think about because it's that the only thing holding up that concrete is the dirt underneath. And the quality of the dirt, subgrade underneath, it's not compacted, if it's not the right type of subgrade, you it's going to fail. So this is where I think you look back at what we were saying about, unlicensed contractors. Because a lot of flat work that doesn't require permitting is going to be done by a guy that just doesn't need your referral. You know what I mean? He's just he's making a quick buck. He's a weekend warrior or something like that, and he doesn't understand, or he doesn't have the equipment to do a proper compaction, or to bring in the right kind of fill or something like that. So, but I mean that's critical.
Yeah, and we have seen a lot of people that they prep the ground, they don't even run a compactor, and they just go ahead and they pour the concrete on top of that. It's gonna fail.
That's one of my pet
a short
peeves.
period of time.
I'll drive around. You see a new house that's being built and it's almost completed, but they haven't finished final grading and they haven't poured the driveway yet. And you'll see they'll have form boards set for the driveway.
Yeah.
And it'll sit there through the rain season for 2 months sometimes.
Yeah.
Just getting washed out. So the footer's gone at the road. You've got some spots that are 3 inches and some spots that are 4, 5, 6 inches. And it's just there's no consistency to it. And I know right away, I'm like, that's a driveway that's gonna fail. That's a driveway that's gonna crack. And it's just because the guys showing up to pour that concrete, they're not bringing the equipment to regrade and compact anything.
No.
So you've got a muddy spot at the bottom. You've got you don't have the footer, you don't have the depth anymore. It passed inspection months ago. It never got poured. So now they're gonna come back and they're gonna pour a driveway that doesn't have the right grade.
That's why we always carry a machine with us, a mini excavator, because we have been on that situation where the day of the pouring concrete, it poured rain last night. So we had to use the machine to remove all of the water, bring some dry road base, compact it, install it, and double check that everything is strong to go.
Right.
So, we have the right tools for that. But we were talking about the contractors, right? And something very important that you got to keep in mind is that people is always watching. Neighbors are always watching. Not only the neighbors, people driving around. Everybody's always watching. So you gotta be sure that whatever you're doing it is being done on a professional matter, because people will be watching you. And if the homeowner didn't see you, somebody else will see you, and they will let them know. So don't try to cut corners. Don't try to hide it. Don't do it if it ain't right.
Especially now with Ring doorbell cameras everywhere, and everybody's got a camera on the. I mean, you're probably on 10 different cameras while you're doing the work without even realizing it.
Yeah.
So, and then Tesla's driving by. They got cameras all over their cars. Everybody's watching. Everybody's watching, exactly.
Yeah, that's correct. And
But
you know,
that goes to making sure you guys are being professionals too,
of
because
course,
if they're just being wild animals and screaming and breaking stuff,
we have seen that.
yeah, 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 yeah.
What advice would you give to contractors that are building their team and want to build a good team?
Be prepared to go through some people. Meaning, you can't be afraid to fire somebody. You're gonna hire some bad people sometimes. It's going to happen. You can't get to know somebody in a 20-minute interview.
Yeah.
I mean, you're gonna get what they show you at the face value. You're gonna get a resume that shows a little bit of background work maybe, and maybe call somebody that might be an uncle that they've worked with. It's hard to vet somebody until you got them on a job site. You can see how they work. So
Yeah.
you can't be afraid to fire people. You're gonna have to at some point.
And sometimes you gotta try there, like you
Yeah,
were
of
saying,
course.
because you don't really know. Some of the guys that we have worked with, they have been in prison, they have been in jail, they have been, they may have some small felonies, stuff like that. But you can judge a book by its cover, and you can judge their life by that,
Yeah.
because sometimes they ended up being great. We had
Yeah.
a great guy with us. For he's no longer with us, but he was with us probably for 2 or 3 years. And if you see this guy, he has tattoos all around his face, all around his body. So you will see him and you will be like, oh my God, guy came to be a very nice guy, family guy. He loved his family. He believed in God. He's very, very nice guy. So you gotta give an opportunity to people. You will go through some good, some bad, and then you stay with the good. But man, like we were talking, on every relationship, it, for it to work, you gotta be a win-win.
Right.
Every relationship gotta be a win-win. So as your team keeps adding to you, you gotta give back to them. And I mean, our newest guy has been probably with us like 5 months or so, but other than that, everybody else has been at least a couple of years, and way back up to 7 years with us.
Yeah.
So I feel like that says something.
Right. Yeah.
People stay with you for many years, that says something. But you also gotta give opportunity to people to grow. So they could be better, they could do better, they could provide better to their family.
Mhm.
Because again, if both parties ain't winning,
Mhm.
it doesn't work.
Yeah. If you're gonna be investing in your guys, it's not just. I mean, you can expect a degree of loyalty by paying them to go to school and learn a new skill that they didn't have before, but you also have to understand that at some point their mind is going to realize I have extra value and I could take this new skill somewhere else and make money doing that. So you got to find that balance between, yeah, I know I invested in them and I know that they appreciate that, but I also need to go, okay, when they're I'm going to make them utilize that new skill that I gave them, and I'm going to pay him for that as well. So finding that balance, you're increasing their value, but then you're paying for them for that value, and then everybody grows together.
Yeah. And a lot of respect and communication.
Yeah,
Because we all depend on in between each other. You know what I'm saying? We depend on our team, they depend on us, and that's the way it goes. So a lot of respect, a lot of communication, and this industry is so easy to go hot on somebody because there's a lot of tension. And
Oh.
whenever you're working under the sun on the hot summer, it's so easy to go off into somebody.
And nobody likes Mondays. Right.
Neither Fridays, right?
Yeah. Well, everybody's
At
looking
work,
forward to
not at work.
that close of business on Friday. Yeah.
Exactly. But good communication and appreciation. That's what it is. You gotta appreciate the people working with you.
That's another thing that we've changed. Between now and when early years
Yeah.
is we used to do a lot more work
Yeah.
on Saturdays, a lot more work on weekends, and
Yeah.
we have really clamped down on keeping that Monday through Friday schedule with the guy. What I know the guys appreciate having that
course.
consistency with their schedule.
Even we do.
Yeah, and we were doing absolutely. It's a game changer. We used to do late night pours.
On Fridays.
Weekends. It was rough. The schedule was crazy sometimes, but we've like really found like a good rhythm
Yeah.
and making sure that jobs are get completed in a timely manner, and we're able to wrap up on a Friday. There's some times where we need somebody to come in for a few hours for little things on Saturdays, but
Yeah.
there's always a guy or two that they want that extra 2
Yeah.
hours on the check. So
And, I even almost forgot about that.
yeah,
But that was the rule. We work Saturday. We work Monday to Saturday.
Yeah.
It was the rule
Yeah.
every single week. I'm glad we changed that because, it's the saying about the appreciation and the communication. Everybody has a life,
Yeah.
and everybody has a family, everybody has a home or somewhere where they get to that they gotta, take care of.
Right.
And working Monday to Friday on this kind of industry, it's hard enough already. So everybody needs that space with their family.
Yeah. When you start getting older guys too, they need their downtime. They need the rest.
Of course,
So,
the resting, yeah, the body, man.
Yeah.
Even the young guys.
Yeah.
So, to those contractors out there, I think one of the biggest piece of advice that we could do is face up the problems, face up the what you would call it, the mistakes.
Yeah, yeah.
Whenever you mess it up, you gotta go and fix it. You
Without
step up.
pointing blame.
Yeah,
Sometimes a mistake happens, but it's just something completely out of your control.
exactly. But face it up.
Yeah.
Don't try to hide it. Don't turn away. Don't try to give it back because it ain't only gonna get worse. I mean, it ain't going away, right? So face it up and focus on solutions, not on the problems. We have been on the situation when a problem show up. We could have guys that will spend 45 minutes blaming each other, trying to find out who blame it was. It doesn't matter at the time. We just gotta focus on the solution, getting solved, so that we could keep moving forward. So focus on the solutions more than on the problems and face it up.
And for the young guys looking to get into something and looking for consistent work, find a team. Find somebody to work for that has a team mentality. Okay. Look for leadership that's going to groom you to be better. Okay. And I'm always looking for somebody that's going to take my job because I want to move up and I want them to move up into my spot. So I'm always paying attention to the guys that are stepping up and leading by example, and they're acting without instruction. They know what needs to be done, and those are the guys that get the recognition. Everybody's going to start. It doesn't matter what industry you're in. Anybody that has gone to school for a job and landed that job has learned that you still have to start at the bottom and work your way up. And maybe it's a little bit faster for somebody that went to school, but everybody's got to start, at the bottom. And for us, that's the hardest labor. So if you could tough that out for the first few years and then work your way up, like that's the goal right there. It's just be consistent. Be consistent with your integrity, with your work ethic, and showing up on time and showing that you're willing to do the stuff that other people might not want to do.
And like we say, there's nothing you can't achieve by being constant and persistent.
Yeah.
That's gonna take you anywhere.
Right.
But you keep it doing, you keep stepping up, you keep showing up, and you keep doing it better and better and better and better every single day.
Thanks for being here with us today, guys. We hope you learned something. We've got plenty more crazy stories to share. Come back and visit us again, and we'll continue to give you more tips.
That's what it is. We are wanting to add value to you guys out there. If there's something you would like us to talk about, something you would like to hear about, please let us know. And like we always say, just treat others the way you want to be treated and do the good to no matter whom.
There we go. All right.